So for our meeting today, we're going to primarily focus on the new Euphoria requirements, and the Euphoria stands for the Utah Foundations of Reading Assessment. So we're going to focus on the new Euphoria requirements and then the 2025 General Teacher and Elementary Content Competencies. So our success criteria is that by the end of the meeting, participants will be able to begin planning how to align their programs to the new 2025 General Teacher and Elementary Content Competencies and prepare candidates to pass the Euphoria requirement for licensure. So on our agenda today, from 9 to 9:10, we'll do our welcome and community check-in. From 9:10 to 9:20, we'll do agency updates. From 9:20 to 9:30, we'll talk about the new Euphoria requirement that goes into effect September 1st. From 9:30 to 9:35, we'll talk about the program review schedule and expectations for this year. And then from 9:35 to 10, we'll talk about approval of alignment to the 2025 general and elementary content competencies. So I'd like to take a minute to introduce and acknowledge some of our new APPEL directors and APPEL programs that have joined us in the last year. So for our new APPEL directors, we have John Hughes from SCSC, Jennifer Samples from Logan City School District, Emily Williams from Box Elder, Gwen Andrews from Promontory School, and Jamie Christensen from Spectrum Academy. And then we also have 3 new APPEL programs that have joined in the last year. And so those are Murray City School District, whose APPEL director is Darren Dean, Monticello Academy, whose director is Lindsay Heinig, and Quest Academy, whose director is Susan Goldsberry. So welcome all of our new directors and programs. For our community check-in today, I would like everybody to introduce themselves. So name, position with APPEL, or responsibilities with APPEL, and then what program you work with, and then share a highlight from this summer. So I'm going to stop sharing and put everybody into breakout rooms. So I wanted to take a second to introduce, just provide a couple staffing updates this summer from USBE. So I wanted to introduce our new apprenticeship specialist, Christina Guevara. Some of you may remember Christina as the APPEL director from Spectrum Academy, but we were lucky enough to bring her on our team this summer, and she's been awesome. So welcome to Christina. And then we are currently hiring for a literacy preparation specialist. So hopefully, we'll get that position filled soon. And if any of you are interested or know anyone that's interested, I would encourage you to look further into that position. Tuesday, October 29th is going to be the APPEL Leadership Conference this year. It's going to be at the Canyon School District Peak Center. The focus of the conference is going to be the new EPP review standards, and then the 2025 general teacher and elementary content competencies. So we'll have lots of resources that are introduced and shared at that conference, some of which we created, a lot of which many of you are working on creating. So we're really excited about that. What I do need everyone to do right now is, if you're planning to attend, let me copy this link. The copy link address. I'm going to put this link in the chat. So if you could go ahead and register. If you're planning to attend, that would be great. So we know how many people to plan for and get name tags created and all of that fun stuff. And then I also included a link. In fact, could someone put a link, maybe Lisa, could you put a link to the slides if we haven't yet in the chat?
Yes, I will do that.
I forgot about that.
I got it.
We've also included a link to the APPEL Leadership Conference. So in that, we'll have the schedule, the names and the descriptions of the presentations, location, address, places to eat, things like that. We had a few summer licensing updates I wanted to discuss. If you haven't yet, I would encourage you to look at the July and August licensing newsletters, because that will go into more depth about just some of the updates and deadlines coming up. We also had a July 18th cactus training that I believe was quite extensive and also discussed a lot of these updates and deadlines. So I included a link to the recording from that. So if you weren't able to attend, I would highly encourage you to watch that. A few of the updates that I wanted to discuss. One is that AELs are no longer renewable, but they may be extended for up to 2 years. And it does not matter if you did not teach at all or have taught for 15 years. We don't consider the history or the experience when extending unless it's a special education associate license. So for special ed, the general rule is if you've taught special ed for 0 or 1 years, you can extend the license for 2. If you've taught for 2 years, you can extend the license for 1 year. And then if you have more than 2 years, so it's technically 2.5 or more years of experience, then you would be ineligible to extend. All LEA specific requests and assignments must be posted in Cactus by LEAs by October 1st to give USBE time to have those posted. And then all assignments and other licenses must be posted in Cactus by October 13th for the funding deadline. Any questions about anything so far?
Andrew, can I ask a quick question? Because
Yes,
I've heard,
who's talking?
this is Susan.
Okay, Susan, hey, yes.
I have a SPED candidate for AEL that is in school, and one place we read she can't apply for AEL without her bachelor's, and somewhere else she read that she can apply for AEL if she's on the road, if she's in a program that will give her a license. Do you know the clarification on that, or do I need to reach
Yes.
out to SPED?
Yep, great question, Susan. To be eligible for a special education associate license, you must have a bachelor's degree and be enrolled in a program and a couple other smaller things. So she would need, before she would be eligible to be the teacher of record in a special education classroom, she would need to have a bachelor's degree, be enrolled in a program. So assuming she has not done that, then she could be a long-term sub.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but she couldn't be like the case manager or the teacher of record for the student.
Okay.
Andrew, Cindy Phillips.
Hey, Cindy.
Hi, I just have a follow-up question to that question. Is that all right?
Yeah, you bet.
So my understanding was that everything you said is accurate, but I wondered if this is not also accurate, because maybe it isn't. That if those individuals, whether seeking the AEL in special education or in, some, elementary ed, some secondary area, if they're in a university prep program and all they have left is their student teaching, then my understanding is they can apply at that point for the AEL prior to the final act of the bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
Is that true?
A little bit. So maybe another change I should have put on here. I don't even remember when this changed now. It may have been May or June. Is that university students who do not hold a bachelor's degree can no longer hold an associate license unless they have completed all requirements with the exception of student teaching.
Okay, that was my understanding as well.
Yes, and then for special education, they would still have to hold a bachelor's degree. But then at that point, they could get an associate license, even if they're just beginning their program for licensure, as long as they have the bachelor's degree.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Any other questions? All right. I believe next, Lisa is going to talk about the annual report.
Yes. So we sent out an email about August 5th, I think it was, with instructions on how to fill out the annual report. It is very similar to other years in that you need to submit an enrollment count template. So there's a spreadsheet where we're asking for the names of the candidates that were enrolled in your program last year. So we're looking at any candidate who was enrolled, even if they dropped last year, you would still, if they were considered enrolled in every program, has their own definition of enrollment. But as long as they are considered enrolled between August or September 1st of 2023 and August 31st of 2024, then they would be included in your enrollment count template. And we need to know their name, their Cactus ID, and their what license area they're working towards, and their endorsements if they're working on an endorsement. And that is the whole annual report this year. Traditionally, we've had some follow-up questions that we've asked from you, but due to all of the other things that are happening this year, we decided not to do follow-up questions. So all you need to do is submit your annual report with your enrollment count template, and then you're done. Let's see, getting an error message from Google on leadership conference link. Uh-oh. We'll look into that, Shonda.
Okay, Joe says it works for him, which is great. So
Can we go to the next slide?
yeah.
In honor of the Olympics going on, we wanted to hand out some medals. These will be like brownie points, but we wanted to give the gold medal to Shonda Moss, who was the first person to submit their annual report this year. So yay, Shonda. And then Stacy Bassinger at Carbon School District actually was 20 minutes after Shonda. So it was really close there. And then the bronze medal goes to Heidi Long, who submitted her report in 3rd place, and she was like a couple days later. So I just wanted to give a shout out to those guys for getting their reports in quickly. And we've got, I think, about 7 or 8 programs now that have submitted their reports. So is that the equivalent of a nose in a 100-meter dash? Yeah, I think so. It was pretty quick. I was surprised. So congratulations. And if you have any questions about filling out your report, let us know. And then we have some Foundations of Reading updates. So this is something we've been communicating for a little while, but because most Apple candidates haven't really had to worry about it, it's probably something that you may have, not totally up on. So just as a refresher, Apple candidates whose PLPs were established after August 31st, 2022 are required to take the Foundations of Reading test. And then starting September 1st, so in about 3 days, the passing score of 240 will go into effect. And then candidates who are recommended for licensure on or after September 1st will need to pass the Foundations of Reading test with a score of 240 or higher to receive their license. And we have been letting candidates know the last 2 weeks where, for some reason they think that they can register, take the test, and be recommended in the last few days. And that is just not possible because it takes usually a couple weeks to schedule your test. And then it takes about 4 weeks to get your score report back. So if they haven't taken the test yet, they're not going to be recommended before September 1st. And then what happens if they do not pass? Yeah, would you mind? I can throw that link in the chat. But we have this guidance document here that talks about some of our other options for candidates who do not pass. It looks really small. I don't know if there's a way you can zoom in. Yep, there we go. Okay. So if they don't pass, they have a couple of options. One is to gain some more knowledge and skills and then retake the Foundations of Reading test. They do not get a voucher if they're retaking. The voucher is only for their first attempt. So that may be, retaking it will be at their own cost. And then they may also register for, or may not also, they could, one of the other options is to register for one of the Utah Flex Reading Series options. So this went live on our Foundations of Reading website yesterday. And we're going to be having a webinar with our Pearson partners later today to explain what this means. But this is basically like a very small version of the Foundations of Reading series that assesses candidates in a more hands-on approach that might work for some candidates, particularly if they scored between a 231 and a 239. So that's how they would be eligible to do this option. And the cost is significantly less than the Foundations of Reading test. So if they scored a 231 or 239, then they can do the flex option, and there are two flex options. They call it the 900 or the 901. Each one of those measures a different objective in the test, so they can choose which one they want to do. They don't have to do both. They can just choose one, and then they would submit that through the Foundations of Reading test. They register, or through the Foundations of Reading website, and they register that way. And then if they score below a 231, they either study to retake the test, or they can do one of our micro-credentials. If you scroll down, the micro-credential option is not on this document. That's weird. I'll have to go take a look at that. It used to be. So anyway, we do have micro-credentials that are live now. And if they log into Midas and then search for elementary literacy, there are 3 micro-credentials in the literacy pathway. Apparently we're calling them pathways now, not stacks. So they have to do all 3 micro-credentials and pass those to be considered passing the Foundations of Reading test. Any questions about that? Very good. Thank you, Elena. So in fact, if you go to the next slide, so we have been getting a lot of questions. So this is a reminder about the webinar. If you have not registered and would like to attend, feel free to register. It'll be right after this meeting at 10:30. And then we do get a lot of frequently asked questions, and the one that Elena put in there is a frequently asked questions. The completion of letters could substitute for a non-passing score, and that is not accurate. So we went in, and there was a lot of concerns about the assessment at the end of letters, that it's not really secure, or there was concerns about people being able to do it without really doing the work. So we were looking for proctored assessments that can tell us what the candidate knows, and letters didn't make the cut. So unfortunately, that will not count as an alternative option. So they'll either need to do flex or the micro-credential. And then one of the common tests is, do I have to take the test? The answer is yes, if their PLP was established after August 31st, 2022. And they have sorry, I got distracted for a minute. Okay, sorry, I'm reading the comments. So we've got, they do have a test online, but apparently it's not like, it's like an open book test and nobody's proctoring it. So there were concerns about the validity of that test. The letters counts towards the elementary literacy methods course. Yes, that is correct. So if they do letters, then they don't have to take the elementary literacy course.
Can I add something real quick, Lisa?
Hold on, I'm gonna answer this question, and then this is how much is the test without the voucher code? It's $139. Yes, Andrew.
So back to Crystal's question, I think does letters count toward elementary literacy course? It does right now count for your elementary literacy methods. Our literacy specialist is doing a crosswalk right now with the new elementary content competencies to see if letters, how many of the competencies letters would meet. So I know she's planning to include that in her presentation at our conference, but I'm sure we'll also have resources on our website saying like which course meets which requirement when that time comes. So.
Thank you. So I appreciate the questions in there. We are updating our FAQ this week. So if you have any other questions that you think we need to add to our FAQ, feel free to drop them in the chat. Or you can just shout them out right now if you want. Okay, great. I will, I think I'm doing this one, right? I apologize. I've had a cold this week and my throat is I had this cough, so I will try not to cough in the middle of this. So program review. So usually during this time, we would talk about who gets to do their program review this year. But because of the changes with the new EPP standards, we are switching up program reviews. If your program is currently on stipulations or probation, we will be doing our follow-up reviews with you between September and December. So you should know if you're one of those programs. We recently sent emails this week of just when would you like to schedule your follow-up review, and we're going to be reviewing those stipulations and the corrective action as part of the probation. For everybody else, all programs will be reviewed this year for alignment to the 2025 general teacher preparation competencies and the 2025 elementary content competencies. They have we'll talk more about that in just a minute, but this is considered a review. And so we're essentially kind of taking a back seat to the other traditional reviews that we've had. However, because of the new EPP standards, we are changing up that process. And so if you go to the next slide, so we are going to do a new process, and we've talked about this a little bit in our meetings, but basically it's similar to what we've done in that we will conduct a quote unquote site visit. This may be in person or it may be held virtually. And then we'll review some completer files. What is new is that we will have you submit a self-study report that shows how your program aligns to the EPP standards. And the idea is that this self-study report will become something that you're like constantly working on as like a continual improvement process thing. And for those that are, starting this process, we realize that the time to work on that is shorter. So for this year, we would like to conduct a few reviews using this new process, but it will be on a volunteer basis only. And we had a couple people volunteer at the last meeting, and we really appreciate that, especially since they don't really know what the new process is yet. So that's very brave of them. But we plan on talking more in depth on that process at the next APPEL directors meeting on September 26th. We just didn't have time today with our webinar and things. So we will be spending a huge chunk of our time talking about that new process. And then after you know what that new process is, if you would like to volunteer, we'd be happy to have you. But we are not we're not going to require anybody to go through that process yet this year, but we will start next year. Any questions on program review this year? Oh, I see Piper says, I'm restating what Andrew said. It would be helpful if and when the transcript of the meeting is shared. Letters does currently count for literacy methods. This may change in the future, but currently is impossible replacement for the coursework. Yes, that is correct. And we will make sure that's in the transcript when we have the recording. Thank you.
Lisa, can I ask a question about the program reviews?
Yes.
So just trying to make sure I understand, between February and May, your voluntary ones, are those just to test out your new system for program reviews, or is this kind of a stepping stone in helping us make sure our new programs are going to be approved when we submit them, or both, I guess?
It would be separate from the competency review process. So if you have questions about aligning your program to the new competencies, we'd be happy to set up a meeting with you to help you through that process. We wouldn't consider that a review. The reviews that we're talking about are what we're envisioning this to be is that you will submit your self-study report about 2 weeks before we schedule your site visit. And that self-study report is kind of an in-depth look at how your program aligns to the EPP standards. And you provide evidence of how your program aligns. And during the site visit, we would discuss that evidence, possibly look at plans to, continuously improve in that evidence. And then we would also review candidate files. And so that is a whole new process that we haven't done yet, and that's what would be a volunteer basis. And I would say if your program is new, if you're on stipulations or probations, I would totally just ignore that and not volunteer this year because you got a lot going on. We're looking at programs that have maybe got first reviewed right at the beginning and are still doing really well, I guess. Have been here for a while. So that's kind of the programs that we're looking at. But again, it's still
I
on a
just wanted
volunteer
to know that
basis.
this is completely separate from program, what's the word I'm looking for? Acceptance or
Yes.
adoption for the new. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Let me check the chat again really fast. It will also be a chance to, if you do volunteer, it would be a good opportunity to kind of help us refine that process. We have some university partners that we're working with, but the universities are different than Apple. So we would really love to get some Apple programs on board so that we can make sure this process works for you as well. Any other questions about program approval? Okay, I think I will turn the time over to Jennifer to talk about the new competencies.
Okay, so we have created a folder that has the template of the program review information in it. And each of you should have received that, that it should have been shared with you. And Andrew, do you want to click on it so they can see kind of what that looks like? So in that, you each should have your own file. Hopefully you only see your own file, as we aren't sharing anyone else's with you. But in those, you will see two different files. One that is for your secondary education program, and then one that is for your elementary. And the reason that we have two is because the elementary has to include the content standard or the content competencies as well as the general pedagogy competencies. And so you can see those at the bottom. And then the first page is just the instructions so that you can just review what we are asking you to do. All of these templates are due by June 1st of next year so that we have time to look at those and give you feedback in case you need to make any changes. And it looks like Andrew will be the one who will share these. And so if you have the wrong one, Andrew, it looks like we have some programs that have the wrong folder in them. So if you guys will just send that to Andrew.
Yeah, I shared them in July, I think. So it's possible that either I didn't share it with you or maybe you didn't see it, but I can definitely share it again if anyone needs it. So just let
It
me
looks like Channing Hall's permissions need to be changed. I'll look at that. Thank you.
So we will get these all sorted out and then you should be able to go in and just look at the template and the instructions so that you can fill those out and get those submitted to us. We have seen one so far from Carbon. And so we're already working on giving them feedback for their program. So we will get those all sorted out and get you the correct folder so that you can begin work on that. Do you want to change slides?
and it's
Oh.
possible that I may have shared it with the Apple director, who I understand is not always the person who, runs the Apple program like day-to-day operations. So that may be a reason some of you may not see it. Some of you, that would not be the reason why. Okay.
Okay, it looks like Channing Hall's permissions have been changed, so hopefully you don't see Channing Hall anymore. And then it looks like there's somebody, I'll keep looking. Anyway, go ahead, sorry.
No problems there. Once you receive your template, we will give you some feedback within 2 weeks. In that folder, you can add any kind of forms. If you're going to use a rubric, you can also include links in this section and anything else that you feel like would be helpful for us in reviewing what your plans are. All of that can be included in this folder, and then we can take a look at it. We'll give you some feedback, or if there needs to be some revisions, we can get that to you as well. And the hope is to have all of these complete and ready to go by August so that you can start enrolling candidates, because those that are not complete or approved will not be able to enroll candidates. And so just keep that in mind, that we want to get this process done and complete so that you don't have any lag time in getting your candidates going.
Okay, Jesselyn, I added you to Weber's, so you should be able to see that.
Thank you.
I will work on Brittany's.
You want to go to the next slide, Andrew? All right, in this resource folder, these are all of the documents that we have completed as far as resources for your programs. And it also will have the tutorial video, any of the things that we have released to the public will be in here.
Jennifer, did you want me to open this folder?
Sure, you
Okay.
can. And we can share that as well. So there's just the communication is any emails that you have received, in case you can't find those emails when you go back and look for it. We're just going to stick them in this folder, and then the tutorial video that was sent out is just in the one that's the tutorial. And so if you want to just review that, it's there. And then the list of resources is all of the documents that we have released, the crosswalks with different things from our old or the old competencies aligned to the new, or how PCBL works with it, or the guidebook. They're all in this list of resources. So we're trying to make it easy for you to be able to find all of the materials in one place. And then, Lisa, do you want to do this one?
Okay, so since we sent that email on July 19th, we've been working with our IHE partners to help align the Apple courses to the new competencies. And we have met with SUU a couple of times, and they're working on it. And we've met with Salt Lake Community College, and yesterday Maria sent some proposed course titles and learning outcomes that they would like to do for the general teacher competencies. And then they're going to start working on the elementary content. So hopefully very soon we will have something to share. they are all going to be presenting at the Apple Leadership Conference in October. So we're really excited about that. They've got some great things happening there. If you're a program who relies on our IHE partners, I would wait probably until January before you start working on your templates, because that's when we anticipate that we will have those course titles and those learning outcomes available for you to just input into your template. If you're a program that develops your own courses, then you can go ahead and start working on that. If you want to know what the IHEs are doing, we can provide you with those updates or give you some support that way. But you don't necessarily need to wait for them to figure that out before you can start if you're going to do your own courses. And then we also have been working with the USB content specialist to develop micro-credentials to assess the new competencies. We currently have the elementary math and the elementary literacy micro-credentials live and available in Midas. And then we anticipate all the other micro-credentials will be live in Midas by January 2025. So there's some great things happening. We're seeing some really cool things. There's a lot of talk about how the new competencies we believe are going to support our candidates better. Oh, yes. Okay. So it looks like we now have our secondary history micro-credentials. That's excellent. I was not aware of that. So that's good. So any questions about that so far? Oh, for the new courses, we don't have those yet. So Amy's asking, where can we find learning outcomes for the elementary methods courses? That's what we're currently working on with our IHE partners to come up with those learning outcomes. So they're not available yet, but they will be available by December. That's what we're shooting for. Yes, we have been waiting a while for those history micro-credentials, so that is good news. Okay, can we go to the next slide? So this, the next part that on our timeline, we said this is what we're going to be working on this fall, is to hold multiple workshops to support programs in this process of aligning to the new competencies. So we have dedicated a large amount of time in the Apple Leadership Conference on this, so that'll be helpful. And then we are going to provide some updates during the Apple Directors meetings. But we would like to hold additional workshops for programs probably from November to April as a support through this process. We're going to drop this link in the chat. So we would love some feedback on what you would like those workshops to have. And maybe you don't know yet. Maybe this is kind of like drinking from a fire hose and you're feeling really overwhelmed. If so, feel free to share that as well. But we would just love some feedback on the questions that you have, the supports you would like to see, so that we can kind of plan these workshops accordingly. We want to be able to meet your needs. So was that the link you were putting in there? Here, I'll put that in there. I think I was trying to add Brittany Bauer to her folder. I think I've almost got it. jordandistrict.org, right? I think that's what it is. Yes, there you are. Okay. So Brittany should have access now, and then I will drop the link to this feedback form in there. Ted says, what's the time frame for the October conference? I believe we're starting at 9 and it'll go till about 3:30. Okay, I'm going to check our feedback form. It looks like we've got a couple of deep dive into the crosswalks. I love it. Okay. We did have, there was a question that we got from one of our programs about candidates who are currently enrolled, and they're going to be allowed to continue on the old competencies, at least for a few years. There isn't a sunset date in the board rule on that, so that'll be up to your program's discretion about how long you are going to allow them to continue on the old competencies. But what happens when those courses are slowly not available anymore? So the first one I think is that we do have a crosswalk between the old competencies and the new competencies. And there's a lot of crossover. So we can look into that and see, even if they took a new course, it could still meet the old competencies, I guess is what we're looking at. So that could be a good place to start. And then the crosswalks of the PPA, if you're a program that uses the PPAT or the EdTPA, that could also serve as evidence that they're meeting, they don't, in addition to taking a course or doing a micro-credential, that could also be an option. We've talked to some programs about how they're going to give their candidates options and say, here's like pathway 1 where you take a pedagogical performance assessment, and then you just got these little things left to do. And then, or here's path 2 where you're going to go take a course, or here's path 3 where you're doing micro-credentials or some kind of combination thereof. We do want to reiterate that the micro-credentials are not courses. So if the candidate doesn't already have the knowledge and skills to demonstrate competency, then the micro-credential path is not a good option for them. But that we are working with our IHEs about having opportunities for the candidates to learn those knowledge and skills by taking their course. Salt Lake Community College has been really cognizant about the length and the courses. And, if, for example, it looks like we may have a professional responsibility course that deals with all of those competencies under that standard. And it could be a really short class. It could be like 15 hours at the most. So that, is some flexibility there that we're having. SUU has been focusing on providing courses for credit. So if you have candidates that are wanting credit towards getting a master's, then that might be a good option for them. So we'll be sharing more about this as we get them finalized. But we're seeing some really good things, and are kind of excited about how this might change teacher preparation in the future. So it looks like we've got the feedback is that we're still a little new to this process, maybe feeling a little overwhelmed. So that is good feedback to share with us, and we'll take that into consideration as we're planning our supports with probably some Apple directors meetings here, and then with our workshops. It's just kind of helping programs start this process. There is a lot of information, and if even just taking some time to read through that, I think might be helpful. But we'll also share it in the coming months.
And
Any
we're
other
also happy
questions?
at least I was just gonna say, we're also happy to meet with anyone. So don't hesitate to reach out, and we can set something up.
Yes, we are happy to set up a time to meet with you anytime you would like to chat. We have met with a couple of programs already that have started this process, and it's been really helpful both for us and for them to kind of work through this process together. So don't be shy. Feel free to reach out. And if you do think of something that you would like we would like to talk about at a workshop or whatever, feel free to drop it in this document or send us an email. We'd be happy to do that. Okay, I'm going to go back to the chat. Looks like there's a couple of messages. Oh, Maria, looks like there's a couple of questions for you. Did you want to, let's see. Oh, it said Salt Lake Community College Elementary Methods course descriptions learning outcomes should be done in a couple weeks. They will include fine arts, PE, health, social studies, science, math, and 2 literacy methods courses. Excellent. And then there was another question about, is Salt Lake Community College offering APPEL scholarships this year?
So no. However, we had that learn and work money for a while due to COVID that was available. However, I'm considering moving my APPEL courses to not for credit. And I'm wondering if anybody cares about that, because my credit courses don't transfer anywhere. They cost more and they take me more time, but what if I get you Midas credit? Does that make a difference, Shonda? If Midas works, then I do have a funding pot called short-term intensive training funds for not-for-credit courses that I think should help teachers in the state who are trying to get professional licenses, right? And so that would cover 50% of cost in some cases. Yes, and the lane changes matter, and that's why I'm working. I put them into Midas. So I'm doing that currently with secondary PE and health, and it seems to be working well, as well as some positive psychology courses for your school counselors. Anyway, just know, but I don't know if the college is going to let me offer all of these not for credits. So, but I'm thinking about it. Yeah. So yeah, it's a political thing as well as a financial thing. I get it. So believe me, I'm thinking about you all the time and your teachers and how to get it more affordable for them.
Yes, we really appreciate the work you've done. It's been great working with our partners at our higher institutions, because it definitely makes our job easier when we have those wonderful partners. Any other questions that we've shared today? We're a little bit early, which is probably good because we do have another meeting after this. So any last minute questions or thoughts that you want to ask to the whole group? If not, we will stop the recording and then we can do individual questions.
Can I say one more thing about those elementary courses,
Yes.
Lisa?
Mhm.
One thing I'm being very thoughtful about as we redo these according to competency is let's not beat a dead horse. So if I can do a course in 15 hours instead of 45, I'm really looking closely at that, or 30 hours. And so I can modify prices and time for your people that way too. And then I'm looking at fine arts being 1 credit, PE being 1 credit, health being 1 credit, for example, and separate. So some people might not need all 3, or you have a way in your district to offer it. I'm hoping things like that might help. So that's what I'm thinking. We'll see what actually happens.
We appreciate that. And that's that 1 credit idea is at the blessing of our content specialists. We've been working with them as well. And that was what they said, yeah, this doesn't require a 3 credit class, but a 1 credit class would be great. So we appreciate you being flexible that way. Cool. All right, I will pause the recording, or I'll stop the recording, and then if you have additional questions, we'll stick around for a little bit, but we really appreciate you coming and all the work that you do for educators. Hopefully your start of the year is going great. Keeping those, knock on wood, right? So thanks, guys. Have a good day.